Good morning. So good to see all of you. Day 119. Yeah, we're ready to go. I would like to call the meeting of the Senate Finance Committee to order and welcome to the first meeting of Senate Finance for the 2025 legislative session. I would like to give all of you a warm welcome joining us in the committee room here in Carson City, as well as in Las Vegas or online. I am Senator Marilyn Dondero Loop, and I have the honor of chairing the Senate Finance Committee. And will the committee secretary please call the roll?
Good morning. Senator Buck? Here. Senator Canizaro? Senator Neal? Here. Senator Nguyen? Here. Senator Stone? Here. Senator Taylor? Senator Titus? Chair Dondero Loop.
Here, and please mark Senator Canizaro present as she arrives. Thank you very much. Before we move on with today's agenda, I would like to give some opening remarks. First of all, I would like to thank all of the committee members for serving on this committee. This is the first Senate Finance Committee meeting, as I said, of the 2025 session, and there will be obviously a lot more before we're done. Last session, Senate Finance and the various committees met a total of 143 times, and I anticipate a similar workload this session. We'll be meeting pretty much every weekday morning, including Fridays during the 120 days. We'll have some late afternoon or evening meetings from time to time. As a matter of fact, we have an evening meeting tomorrow, so on February 5th. So we will also be having Saturday meetings once we get into April, so I hope you're all ready to work. There are over 481 individual budget accounts to review within the governor's recommended budget, and I anticipate approximately, and I'm guessing more, than 200 bills being referred to Senate Finance over the course of the legislative session. Last session, we had 326 bills referred to Senate Finance. So we will be extremely busy, and we look forward to working with all of you. In order to manage our workload this session, it is important that all committee members attend each meeting for the entire meeting. Members, we really need you here, and you can be, I want everyone to know, you can be removed if you do not attend meetings on a regular basis. Committee and subcommittee meetings will start at 8 a.m. each morning, so all members need to be in the committee room in their seats and ready to work at 8 a.m. each day. We must be efficient with our time when we have this kind of a workload. We only have one item of business on the agenda today, and it's committee organization. So we will have all our LCB fiscal staff and Senate Finance Committee staff in the audience, and we will have everyone have staff introductions, and then we'll move on to committee member introductions. And I will ask fiscal staff to go over some of the committee organization documents, including proposed committee rules. Lastly, we will have a short presentation from fiscal staff on the Nevada state budget. So we will begin with Mr. Thorley. Would you like to begin with fiscal staff introductions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. Wayne Thorley for the record, LCB Fiscal Analysis Division. I'll do my introduction, then pass it over to my two deputies up here at the dais to do their introductions. And then I'll call up individual teams in our office to come up to the witness table to do all their introductions. So as I mentioned, I'm the Senate Fiscal Analyst with the Fiscal Analysis Division, together with my counterpart in the Assembly, Sarah Kaufman, who is the Assembly Fiscal Analyst. We head up the Fiscal Analysis Division. The Fiscal Analysis Division has 29 professional staff positions, one of which is currently vacant, and we also have 6 clerical support positions. One of those is also currently vacant. We have 2 temporary session hire folks who are former LCB fiscal employees. Since retired, they're back working with us this session, and we appreciate their help. Most of our amazing staff is here in the committee room. We do have one individual out on maternity leave, And then we have one individual on the Zoom, but then I believe everybody else is here in the room. And as I mentioned, they will have an opportunity to introduce themselves shortly. So I'm the primary staff for this committee, and me and the entire fiscal team, we're here to help you and support you in all the work that this committee does this session, and also in any other fiscal or budgetary related needs or questions that you all might have. I've been the Senate Fiscal Analyst for a little over 4 years now, and have worked for the Legislative Council Bureau for over 10 years, with a 6-year break in the middle of those 10 years when I went and worked for the executive branch. I was raised in Las Vegas, attended UNLV, go Rebels. And I've been there for undergrad and grad school and studied economics. Sarah Kaufman and her 2 deputies, Brody Leiser and Adam Drost, they are up in Ways and Means right now, so they're also not here, and they won't be here to introduce themselves, but I just wanted to make sure everyone knew. I'm sure everyone knows who they are, but they won't be here to introduce themselves because they have their own committee going on. So I'll now turn it over to Kathy Crockett, who is my chief deputy, to do her introduction.
Thanks, Wayne. My name's Kathy Crockett. I've been with LCB Fiscal since 2010. Also, like Wayne, I had a little brief sabbatical to the executive branch. I was born and raised in Reno, Nevada. Go Pack, attended UNR. I'm a certified public accountant, a certified management accountant, and I really look forward to assisting the committee with all their work this session.
Good morning. My name is Julie Waller, and I'm the principal deputy fiscal analyst. And this will be my 10th legislative session with LCB, and I look forward to working with committee members. My primary budget assignments are the State Public Works Division and the Capital Improvement Program.
All right, so we'll have J. Marie Mangoba and her team come up first to do their introduction.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Senate Finance Committee. I am J. Marie Mangoba, and I've been with the state since year 2000, 25 years, got 5 more years to go to retire. This will be my 5th legislative session, and I'll turn it over. Oh, and my assigned accounts include the Nevada System of Higher Education, including WICHE. I have also PERS, and Secretary of State is my new account this session. I'll turn it over to my teammate, Madison, who's online.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Madison Ryan, and I am a program analyst with the Fiscal Analysis Division. This will be my 3rd legislative session, and my budget assignments include the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation and the Department of Business and Industry. And I will turn it over to Damian Meeks. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Damian Meeks, Program Analyst for LCB Fiscal, and this is my 1st legislative session, although I've had 13 years with state government service. My assigned accounts are the Department of Administration, the Cannabis Compliance Board, Nevada Athletic Commission, Governor's Office of Energy, Governor's Office of Economic Development, the Office of Science and Information Technology, Office of New Americans, and the Public Utilities Commission.
All right, next we'll have John Cusera and his team.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is John Cusera. I'm a principal program analyst for the Fiscal Analysis Division. I've spent about 11 years in state service, the last 7 of which have been with the Fiscal Analysis Division. My primary accounts include the Division of Healthcare Financing and Policy, which is Nevada Medicaid, including the Indigent Accident Fund and the Upper Payment Limit Account, as well as the Lieutenant Governor's Office. It's my pleasure to support a great team, and I will turn it over to Morgan Barlow and then Tom Weber.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Morgan Barlow. This is my 2nd legislative session. Prior to that, I was in the private industry. My primary budget accounts this session is the Director's Office of the Department of Health and Human Services. And with that, that's where the discussion of the reorganization will occur. So by default, I'll be taking that on. And then in addition to that, I have the Silver State Health Insurance Exchange, also known as SHIX, and then also the public health accounts of the Department of Public Health and Department of Public and Behavioral Health. In addition to that, I am John's understudy for Medicaid, which means I support him and make sure nothing bad happens to him during session. With that, I'll turn it over to Tom.
Good morning, Chair Dondero Loop and members of the Senate Committee on Finance. My name is Tom Weber. I'm a program analyst with the LCB Fiscal Division. I've been with the division since 2021, and prior to that, I was staff to the Senate Committee on Finance during the 2019 and 2021 sessions. During the 2023 legislative session, I was on the Fiscal Division's admin team, and this will be my first legislative session as a program analyst. And my budget accounts are the Department of Public Safety, the Department of Sentencing Policy, and the Office of the Chief Information Officer. Thank you.
All right, we'll next go to James Malone and his team.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm James Malone, Principal Program Analyst. This will be my fourth legislative session. I have the pleasure of serving as the K-12 education lead on this legislative session, and I also carry the Controller's Office and the Core NV budget accounts.
Good morning. My name is Yuri Yakovlev. I'm Program Analyst. This is my second legislative session with LCB Fiscal. First on the K-12 team. Prior to that, I was with LCB Audit for 3.5 years. I carry the State Public Charter School Authority, Department of Education, and I serve as the understudy for the Pupil-Centered Funding Plan. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Liliana Camacho Poco. I am a program analyst. I have been with LCB for 12 years. This will be my second session with the Fiscal Analysis Division. My accounts include Department of Motor Vehicles, Department of Transportation, and I have a few of the education accounts too. Thank you.
All right, next up we'll have Kimbra Ellsworth and her team.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name's Kimbra Ellsworth. I'm a senior program analyst with the Fiscal Analysis Division. This will be my fourth regular session, and my accounts are the Aging and Disability Services Division of HHS, and my new assignment this session is the Gaming Control Board. And we are a mighty team of two here. This is Nicolette Johnston.
Good morning. I'm Nicolette Johnston, a program analyst. This is my second session with the Fiscal Analysis Division and my third with LCB. I have about 12 or 13 years off and on with state and local government. My budget accounts are Department of Agriculture, Department of Wildlife, Department of Native American Affairs, and Department of Tourism and Cultural Affairs. Thank you.
Next up is Nancy Morris and her team.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Nancy Morris. I am a senior program analyst. This is my third regular session with LCB Fiscal. I have the Department of Taxation, Department of Corrections, and the Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Daniel Miller. I'm a Navy veteran and a program analyst for the Fiscal Analysis Division. I've been with LCB for this will be my second session. I currently oversee the Division of Child and Family Services and the Office of the Military.
Great. We'll next have Alex Hartz and his team. Alex is one of our session hires.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, I'm one of those who struggle with retirement. I'm serving as
He's back.
I am serving as a principal program analyst for this session. This is my 9th session with the Fiscal Analysis Division. I have everybody's favorite account, the Public Employee Benefits Program, otherwise known as PEB, the Governor's Office of Finance, the Commission on Ethics, and the Department of Veteran Services.
Good morning, committee members. For the record, my name is Colby Nichols. I'm a program analyst and have the honor of serving on Team Hearts. This will be my 4th regular session with the LCB Fiscal Analysis Division, and I joined LCB after serving as committee staff for the Senate Finance Committee in 2017, which is my first state job. Glad to be back. I have retained as my assignments the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services under the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Indigent Defense Services. And then new to me to this session would be portions of the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, and those would be the Division of Forestry and the Division of Environmental Protection.
All right, next up we'll have Stephanie Day, the second of our wonderful session hires, and her team.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I am Stephanie Day, and I am the other individual who has a hard time being retired. I have the judicial branch, which includes the Supreme Court and the Commission on Judicial Discipline, the Attorney General's Office, and the Governor's Agency for Nuclear Projects. And Justin Luna is on my team.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name's Justin Luna. I'm a program analyst. This will be my 2nd session with LCB Fiscal. Prior to that, I spent 12 years on the executive branch side, primarily in emergency management and some of the health agencies. My budget assignments are the rest of conservation and natural resources that I share with Mr. Nichols. The behavioral health side of DPBH, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, Colorado River Commission, and the Division of Minerals. And little personal, I grew up in Tennessee, went to school in Indiana, but have happily called Nevada home for over 25 years. And my son is a freshman at UNR right now, so go Pack. Thank you.
All right, next we'll have Michael Nakamoto and the tax team.
There are 4 of us and 3 chairs, so the math does not work out. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Senate Finance Committee. I am Michael Nakamoto. I serve as Chief Principal Deputy Fiscal Analyst with the Fiscal Analysis Division. This is my 10th legislative session and my 2nd session in this role. I am the head of what is known as Mr. Thorley pointed out, the tax team. We are primarily responsible for staffing the revenue committees, the Senate Revenue and Economic Development Committee and the Assembly Committee on Revenue. So I will see a couple of you later this afternoon. Otherwise, I will be floating in and out of this committee from time to time. Additionally, we are responsible for administering fiscal notes for the legislature and for the Fiscal Analysis Division. We are also staffed to the Economic Forum, not only as actual staff, but as forecasters. So we wear a lot of hats. I will turn it over to Christian Tower on my right.
Good morning. My name is Christian Tower. I'm a deputy fiscal analyst, and I worked for the first time for the legislature during the 2019 session when I was a committee manager for the Assembly Committee on Health and Human Services. Shortly after the 2019 session, I joined the LCB on the budget side, where I oversaw during the 2023 session public and behavioral health. And soon after that session, I joined the tax team on the revenue side, and I'm now staffing the Senate Committee on Revenue and Economic Development.
Good morning, Susanna Powers, Deputy Fiscal Analyst. This is my 2nd session. I have been with Fiscal for almost 3 years now, and before that, I was on the executive government side for 13 years, something like that. And I staff Assembly Committee on Revenue. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Haley Owens. I serve as an economist to support the tax team in the fiscal division. This will be my first session with the Legislative Counsel Bureau. Prior to this, I was on the executive side for about 8 years.
All right, next we have a team which I've dubbed Magic Behind the Scenes. So come on up. These are the individuals that you will not be seeing in committee this session, but they make things run smoothly for us.
Good morning. My name is Cheryl Harvey, and this is my 12th session with LCB, and I am a management analyst, and I do administer the fiscal notes, and I do agendas for Senate Finance, and I bill track for Senate Finance.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Judy Lyons. I'm a management analyst, and I provide support to the Assembly under the direction of Sarah Kaufman. I've been with the LCB, this will be my 6th session. Prior to that, I worked for the Department of Motor Vehicles and Nevada Rural Housing Authority. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Christopher Robison. I am a data analyst for the Fiscal Analysis Division. I've been with Fiscal for, this is my 2nd session, and then I was with the executive branch for about 13 years beforehand. I'm responsible primarily for things like maintaining our database systems and SharePoint, as well as process automations and efficiency projects.
All right, next we have our support staff team.
Good morning. I'm Carla Ulrich. I'm the Manager of Administrative Services in the Fiscal Division. This is my 6th session with the Fiscal Division and my 7th session total. And I'm going on my 12th year with the state. My team and I provide administrative support to the division, and you probably received many, many emails from me with your highlights. So thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Melissa Garvin. I'm an Administrative Services Specialist. This is my 2nd session, and I am the Fiscal Division Secretary to the Interim Finance Committee.
Good morning. I'm Basha Thomas, and I'm an Administrative Services Specialist, and this will be my 1st session.
Good morning. My name's Natalia Garzoli. This is my 1st session with LCB Fiscal. Before this, I was with the executive branch for 3 years, and I am Melissa's counterpart with IFC. Thank you.
And as I mentioned, we have one more member of our support staff team, Maria Montes, who's out on maternity leave and will be rejoining us at some point during session. And did we miss, I don't think anybody, fiscal? All right, that's it for the Fiscal Analysis Division team.
Okay, thank you very much. And I know that it goes without saying, but you know that you keep our ship running the right direction. So I cannot thank all of you enough, and I appreciate all of you, and I'd like to excuse all of you so you can head upstairs to Assembly Ways and Means, and you get to do this all over. So thank you very much, and it's good to see all of you, and sometimes put a face to a name, so thank you. Next, we'll move into committee staff introductions. So we'll have Ms. Lona Dominici, our committee manager for this session, to begin the committee staff introductions.
Good morning, Chair Don Darrell Loop and members of the Senate Finance Committee. It's a real pleasure to work with each and every one of you. I have been a committee manager for 10 years, and it's a pleasure to work with you. I am also retired from the state of Nevada in fiscal, budgeting, and auditing, and we have a wonderful staff to introduce to you. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a native Nevadan, born in Yerington, Nevada, and very proud of that. Thank you.
Good morning, Senators. My name is Kathy Davis, and I'm Senator Dondero Loop's legislative assistant. I'm a retired state of Nevada employee. This is my third session, and I am grateful for the opportunity to work with Senator Dondero Loop and thankful for the opportunity to work for the Senate sessions.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Helen Wood. I am the Finance Committee Staff Manager and a Finance Committee Secretary. I don't have any experience in the state, but I did work for Space and Defense for about 40 years. About 34 of those years were spent at the Boeing Company in the spacecraft section. This is my second session. We were here for all those bills and budgets the last time, so I'm really looking forward to sine die.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Marie Bell, and this is my second session with Senate Finance. I retired from the Gaming Control Board and the Nevada Gaming Commission in 2022, and I'm happy to be back again for this session.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jacob Anderson. I'm a Finance Committee Secretary. This is my first session. Prior to this session, I was in the private sector. I worked as a project manager for several years, and always been interested in public service. So when I saw this opportunity, I went for it, and I'm just thrilled and honored to be here and supporting the work of this committee. Thanks.
Good morning, Chair Dondero Loop and members of the committee. I'm Gail Anderson, and I'm a Senate Finance Committee Secretary. I am here from Las Vegas, and this is my first legislative session as staff. I retired from the state after 22 years at the end of 2022. My first 14 years were in business and industry department, primarily with the real estate division as administrator. And my last 8 years were with the Secretary of State's office, and I served as the Deputy Secretary for Southern Nevada. So my first session on the agency side was in 2002. And I always thought working a session would be interesting and fun, and I'm really pleased to be here working with you. Thank you.
You know, we love retirement.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Betsy Strasberg, Carson City resident, as the Senate Finance Committee Secretary in my first legislative session. Prior to this, I held several senior management positions in finance, compliance, and CFO advisory engagements over 30 years. On a personal note, I was born in Bangladesh, educated high school in London, and Bachelor of Science in Chemistry in Scotland, and finally an MBA in Finance from California. But I'm delighted to be here in Carson City and really proud to serve in this legislative session. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Diana Giovanoni. I serve as your senior proofreader this session. This is my second session. Prior to this, I also retired from state service. I worked at the LCB Audit Division for 15 years. I am a retired CPA, and I retired from LCB in 2020. And my other experience includes being a grandma to 7 grandkids. I just love that. And I have worked in private industry, primarily in gaming, and then before that in public accounting. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jackie Cheney. I worked my entire career in Nevada state government,
really in Carson City, but I worked in all of the field offices and the health and human services programs, including Medicaid and all the cash assistance programs. My first session here upon retirement was 1999, and I was fortunate. I worked on the assembly side the first session, and I was a advisor, kind of a resource person for the esteemed Assemblywoman Jan Evans, who was pro tempore at the time, and I was able to sit with her on every floor session during her time, that first session. After that, I came to the Senate side, and I've been on this side since then. I have worked as a committee secretary in the Health and Human Services Committee, and twice in this committee, the Senate Finance Committee, and since then I've been a proofreader. So I'm happy to be here again, but I'm getting tired, so I don't know how much longer.
Good morning. I'm Felicia Archer, and I am also a Senate Finance proofreader. I started with this committee 8 years ago, sitting over there at that desk as a committee secretary, and this is my 5th session. I am a Gardnerville resident for 35 years, which is the better part of my life, and I am retired and was honored to be on the team that helped build the freeways in Las Vegas in the 1990s. So I have a soft spot for Las Vegas too. I'm happy to be on this team. I helped to create the minutes that document what you do all session long. We take that very seriously, and we appreciate everything you do, and we watch almost all of your meetings.
Okay, well, as you can see, we have the cream of the crop in this committee. So next, the last set of introductions we will do is committee members. And so we'll start with my vice chair, Senator Wynn, and then we'll just sort of go down the line. So all of you, we'd welcome you to stay, but we understand if you have work, if you would like to excuse yourself, we understand that as well. But thank you so much for being here. And Senator Wynn?
Hi, everyone. My name is Rochelle Wynn. This is my 2nd session in the Senate, and previously I served in the Assembly. Finance is my favorite committee by far of all the sessions that I've been a part of. So I'm excited to be back here. The numbers, like many of the people that are in here, I think that's where policy and funding all meet, and it's really exciting as a lawmaker and a policymaker to be able to work on that. I represent Senate District 3, which is in southern Nevada. I live right in central Las Vegas, close to the old Fremont Street area, about a mile away from the Las Vegas Boulevard. There are the Strip, and I extend all the way out into the northwest part of town, where the new part of the 215 meets, and Ann Road. So I'm pretty far out, and I have a very large encompassing, not as large as my colleague to my left, but pretty big. Thanks.
There we go. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Stone, and I'm very honored to serve on this committee for the very first time. This is my 2nd session. I represent District 20, which is a large district, goes northerly all the way to Mesquite, southerly all the way to Laughlin, and my wife and I, Regina, we live in the beautiful city of Henderson. We have 4 children, 7 grandchildren, and I'm just honored to be up here with all of you, and thank you for allowing me to serve on this committee.
Good morning. My name is Angie Taylor. I proudly represent Senate District 15 in Reno, which is around the university area. North, it goes to Sun Valley, and south, it goes out to Huffaker. So pretty wide, pretty diverse district. This is my first session in the Senate after having a session in the Assembly, and I am ecstatic to be here and learn so much more about the state finances and all the ins and outs. So like my colleague here to the right, thank you so much for placing me on this committee and ready to go to work.
Hi, good morning. Senator Titus, this is my second session on the Senate Finance Committee. I spent 4 sessions in the Assembly, and I have been on the Money Committees ever since my first session. I represent Senate District 17, and I just smile when my fellow senators talk about how big their districts are, because my district, I represent 6 different counties, from South Lake Tahoe, Douglas County, all of Douglas, all of Lyon, all of Churchill, all of Esmeralda, all of Mineral, and actually part of Nye. I represent all the way from to Tonopah. So I tell folks that I truly have the best demographics of the state of Nevada. I represent the casino corridor in South Lake Tahoe, from all the ag communities in Fallon, the Navy Air Station in Fallon. I also represent the mining industries, the lithium, plus a bunch of little cities that are fighting all the time with each other, getting more stuff. Fallon and Dayton and Fernley, all of them competing for funds. And so, again, I have a great representative of the state of Nevada. I'm proud to serve. I've been a medical doctor and graduate from UNR, so for me, it's a go pack. Although I would have to tell you, I did attend a UNLV basketball game when I was down there during the budget hearings, and so I try to represent our entire state. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Nicole Cannizzaro, and this is my 5th legislative session, my 4th serving as a Senate Majority Leader, and I think by far this is my favorite committee, and all of the amazing staff that came up here just does incredible work in such a short period of time. And anyway, this is my favorite place to be during the legislative session, and that's how come Madam Chair can't get rid of me on this committee just yet. But I'm born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. I am a proud graduate of the University of Nevada, Reno. Go Pack. And I am also a proud graduate of the UNLV Boyd School of Law, so go Rebels. And currently live in Las Vegas. I spent the majority of my career as an attorney working for the Clark County District Attorney's Office, primarily as a chief deputy in the gang unit, so that's a lot of where my background comes from. I now work in private practice. You probably saw, maybe if you caught a glimpse of floor session at all yesterday, my 3 beautiful boys who were totally destroying that desk, and all of my notes yesterday, but we had a lot of fun. And so anyway, I'm really proud to be here, and always proud to be in Carson City and up in Northern Nevada when I get the chance. So thank you all so much for serving, and I'm excited to get to it this session.
Hi, good morning. I'm Senator Dina Neal. I represent Senate District 4. I served in the Assembly for 5 sessions, moved over to the Senate in 2020. I guess this is my second session or third. What is it? Just my 3rd session in the Senate. Yeah, that tells you how special it is. So I am grateful to be on this committee. I have been teaching for a really long time. I teach at Nevada State business law and Nevada Constitution, which makes it awesome. I usually use all of the cases that happen to the legislature as part of my discussions, which makes it wonderful. And so thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Glad to meet you guys.
Hello, I'm Senator Carrie Buck. It's an honor to be here in Finance Committee, and I serve Senate District 5, which is the heart of Henderson. It's Old Town Henderson, where I served as an educator for nearly 20 years, serving families and students there in that district. I'm excited to be on Finance Committee. I think I like to say that I didn't draw the short straw, but it was kind of the way that it worked out. So I'm very excited to learn from my colleagues and be here, and I look forward to working with all of the staff here as well as my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I, as I had said at the beginning of the meeting, am Senator Marilyn Dondero Loop, and I have the distinct honor of chairing this committee. This is my 7th session. I spent 3 in the Assembly, and this will be my 4th session in the Senate. This is my 2nd session chairing Finance, and I am very, like I said, honored to be here. I am extremely pleased with our committee members this session. I think we're going to have a great committee and get a lot of good work done. I have 3 daughters, and I was an educator by trade, so I taught 30 years before retiring, and like many of our staff, decided that I could only clean the house so many times. So here I am. And I have 5 grandchildren, and they are in schools in Las Vegas. And so I get to hear a lot about education and things going on there. I also am a native Nevadan, born and raised in Las Vegas, but my father was also born and raised in Hawthorne, so I think I have driven every square inch of Nevada and love this state dearly. So thank you all for being here, and thank you all for all the hard work that will happen this particular session as we embark upon the 120 days. Thank you very much, and with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Thorley to go over committee organization materials. And all committee members should have the packet at their desk. And I'll give Mr. Thorley just a minute to get down in front of us. And when he's ready, we will begin. We have a slight technical issue, so did we get that fixed? Okay, great. Okay, thank you. And Mr. Thorley, just begin when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning again, everyone. Again, for the record, Wayne Thorley, Senate Fiscal Analyst with the Fiscal Analysis Division. As the Chair mentioned, at your desk, you all have the committee organization documents, and I'll be walking through those. Before we get into that, though, I just wanted to mention a publication that we just hot off the presses this morning that we just put out. It is this fiscal brief booklet that all of you have at your desk, an overview of the executive budget. This is a new publication for us this session. In the past, we have published what we called the fiscal report, which was an in-depth, detailed dive into the governor's recommended budget. Because of the length of that document, we never really got it out until late February, about a month into session, at which point you're already done hearing, you're halfway through hearing budgets. And so it was over 300 pages, very dense, and not super useful because of the time that it came out. So we wanted to get you all something that right at the start of session that had a high-level summary of the governor's executive budget with nice charts and graphics for you all. And then it used to be in a big binder. Now this is something you can slip into your purse, your briefcase, or carry it around with you. And so just welcome any questions after you get a chance to look at it, any concerns or comments about it. This will be posted online too sometime, hopefully later today. And then we're state printing still running off copies. We hurried and get copies for all of you, but there will be copies available for the public as well here in the near future. So anyway, that's the fiscal brief. So the first thing in your packet are the committee standing rules. These are the rules that are proposed by the chair. They are largely unchanged from the rules that were approved by this committee last session. There have been some minor formatting changes. The biggest changes in the rules relate to requesting a committee room video conference to Las Vegas. In the past, we didn't have enough committee rooms in Las Vegas for us to always have this meeting video conference to Vegas. So if there's going to be a presenter or somebody presenting from Las Vegas, we needed that request in advance so that we could reserve a committee room and get that scheduled. Now, with the new State of Nevada Hearings Room building, Building 17 on the Las Vegas campus that just opened, just came online, we have a dedicated room now in Las Vegas for all Senate Finance Committee meetings. So we will be video conferencing every meeting to Las Vegas. So there's no longer a need to request that this meeting be video conference, so that was removed from the rules. The rest of the rules, as I mentioned, largely unchanged and pretty standard. I'm happy to answer any questions or that anybody might have on the rules. And if not, Madam Chair, this is a document that needs to be voted on by the committee members.
All right, thank you very much. And I know that you've had a brief time to look over this document. But with that, I will ask for a motion to approve this document.
So moved.
So moved by Senator Wynn, second? Second by Senator Stone. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Thorley. Please go on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next document in your packet is a big list of budget accounts. So these are all the budget accounts that are included in the executive budget. There's 485 individual budget accounts. 4 of those have no recommended funding in them. So there's 481 budget accounts with recommended funding by the governor. There is not enough time during legislative session to review each and every single, for this committee to review each and every single one of those budgets. So if there are budget accounts with either no enhancement recommendations, so it's just the base budget, or only minor recommendations, those budgets are not heard in either joint full committee or in one of the subcommittees. Instead, those closing recommendations related to those budgets are brought by fiscal staff during the budget closing time, so when we get into April. Of the 481 budget accounts, fiscal staff is recommending that 221 be closed by staff, with the remaining 260 receiving a budget hearing. So again, anything that's closed by staff will not be heard. So the agency will not come up and present that budget. We'll just do a staff closing at budget closing times. You all will still have to vote on that budget, but it will not be presented by the agency. So on the list, anything in yellow is what we are proposing as staff to be staff closed. So again, those won't have a budget hearing. You'll recommended to not have a budget hearing. And then there's some other colors. Anything highlighted in green are new budget accounts this biennium in the governor's recommended budget. And then anything in salmon is either a budget account name change or it's a recommendation to move department or divisions. This is a recommendation from staff. It has been approved by the chair. However, past practice of this committee and the chairs will be continuing that is for you all to have a couple days to look over this. And then if you have any recommendations for budget accounts that are in yellow on this list for staff closing that you would like to hear, you can make those suggestions to the chair. She would ask that those be submitted by this Friday. And then the chair will decide whether to include those in budget hearings or not. So again, this is a draft subject to change, and you all have more time than just these few minutes here to look over it. If you have any questions while you're reviewing it, wondering why we are recommending something for a staff close, please reach out to us, and happy to let you know. So again, by Friday, please let the chair know if you have any recommended changes.
Thank you very much, and I believe Senator Cannizzaro has a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Thorley. I always find this to be exceedingly helpful for us to have a handle on what it is we're going to be viewing in either subcommittee or eventually joint full committee. For those of us who are taking a look, because we've been doing this a few sessions, there's always some requests to hear certain things in our hearings. Please know that we have a very limited amount of time. And so as the chair is reviewing these and we're sort of going through to approve additional things to be heard, if you have particular questions about that budget, you can always ask those questions. We obviously have amazing staff who's very capable of sitting down, walking through. But if there is not some overarching pressing issue occurring in one of those budgets, that we just want to have a hearing on it to have a hearing on it. This committee does not have the time or the availability to do that. So that's just my word of caution, that we have always been pretty strict with trying to stick with having what we've highlighted here as staff closings, and I love that there's an inclusion here of what was staff closed last session as well, so that there's no surprises for the members of this committee. But we're continue to be very strict about making sure that we're hearing the budgets and having the time to dig into that which we have to dig into. So I appreciate everyone bringing any requests to hear any staff closed proposed budgets to the chair, but please know as those are being reviewed, that unless there is really some very pressing issue, we just do not have the time in this committee, and nor will we approve having additional budgets put on for a hearing just to have a hearing. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that, Majority Leader. I concur with that. I mean, over the 6 times that I've been on this committee, both houses, looking at things that I thought, well, we need to have a hearing, reaching out, recognizing that we have a limited time, have always had my questions answered for those that I do. So I would encourage members, especially new members on this committee, to look through this list. If there's a budget that you think you need more information on, please reach out to staff for that, because there is a limited time. The question I have for you there, Mr. Thorley, however, is some of these budgets are closed by staff over multiple sessions, but they're all audited at some point through the audit process, through whatever the division that belong, correct? So at some point, there's extra oversight?
So Wayne Thorley for the record. Thank you, Senator, for the question. Yes, so we as your fiscal staff, we review every single budget. So even budgets that are coming for a staff closing, we still dig into them. If we have questions about anything, we reach out to the agency. So we go through that entire review process. It's just done between our staff and the executive branch staff. And then if any questions come up during that, we may then bring that up to you all's level. But yes, they undergo a review. And then once the budgets are approved and we get into the interim, and then we're monitoring everything that they do to make sure that legislative intent is being carried out and that they're following all the laws. So yeah, just because it doesn't come to this committee for a hearing, we're tracking everything on the back end.
Great, I appreciate that. I'm a firm believer that you give folks, competent folks, a job, and then you let them do their job. So I appreciate the job that you do. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments from the committee? All right, with that, Mr. Thorley, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next document in your committee organization packet lists agencies that are reviewed by the various subcommittees. This is just a reference document for you all. If you're wondering where, say, the Cannabis Compliance Board will be, where their budget will be heard, if you're wondering if you're on the subcommittee where that will be heard, you can just find it on the list, and that's actually on the full committee. So certain budgets are heard in the full committee, primarily joint meeting joint with the Assembly Ways and Means, but from time to time, it may just be Senate Finance. And then some of them are in joint subcommittees, of which you all are assigned to at least 2 of those joint subcommittees. So again, this is just a reference list for you all that you can see which agencies will be coming before the joint subcommittees that you all are assigned to. And then it also lists the staff analyst in our office who is responsible for those particular agencies. So if you have any questions, you know who to reach out to. The next document, this is a similar document. This table lists the members of so there's 5 joint subcommittees. The audit joint subcommittee generally doesn't meet during session. So this lists just the 4 joint subcommittees that actually do meet during session. It lists the Senate members of the 4 joint subcommittees at the top line there of the table, and then again lists the departments or agencies that are heard by that joint subcommittee. So again, if you just are wondering when a certain department, like the Department of Agriculture, where that will be heard, you can see that will be heard in the General Government Joint Subcommittee hearing. At the joint subcommittee level, any decisions made there are recommendations to the full committee. So once a budget is recommended, like a budget closing decision is made at the subcommittee level, that's a recommendation to the full committee. And then at some point, that recommendation will come to the full committee for you all to vote on. So just because you don't serve on, say, the Human Services subcommittee, you won't be in those detailed budget hearings, but that subcommittee's recommendations will come to the full committee. A subcommittee report will be presented to you all, and you will have an opportunity at that point to vote and ask questions as well. The next document, these are the 9 new budget accounts in the executive budget for this session. So when the governor proposes his executive budget, if he's proposing any new budget accounts, those are included in there. Often the budget accounts are a result of legislation from the prior session. So for example, the first one on the list for the Office of the State Treasurer, the Nevada Employee Savings Trust Administration account, budget account 1102. This is a result of legislation passed by the 2023 legislature. So it obviously wasn't in the budget that the governor proposed for the 2023 session. It was introduced, the bill was introduced and adopted by the 2023 legislature, and so now it's a permanent program being carried forward. So there's a short description in there for these 9 budget accounts of what their function is. So this is just, again, a reference document. Any questions, let us know. And then the last 2 documents, the one with the table on it, and it's looks like the org chart, that is our Fiscal Analysis Division staffing assignments. So it lists all the individuals who just came up here and introduced themselves to you all. And then they all mentioned what agencies they're assigned, and I'm sure you don't remember everything that they said. So it just lists here which agency, again, each one of those individuals is assigned to, in case you have any questions. And then you can always just run questions through me, and I can filter those out through staff. And then the very last document in your packet is a sample of our committee progress report from last session. So as the chair mentioned at the very beginning, this is an extremely busy committee. In addition to hearing budget accounts, so 481 budget accounts that are going to be reviewed and closed by the money committees. There's a number of capital improvement program projects that are recommended by the governor. That's reviewed. And then there are hundreds of bills that end up getting referred to finance, and those are heard and reviewed by this committee too. So there's a lot to keep track of. So every week, Cheryl Harvey, who is the management analyst assigned to Senate Finance, she will be updating our this progress report and then sending an email out to you all so you can see where you're at. We kind of it started including some graphics and tables last session to make it a little bit more easy to read. So that's something about Sunday evenings or Monday mornings that this will be mailed out starting this upcoming weekend. You'll get your first progress report. If you have any questions about the progress report, again, you can just let us know as staff. And that's everything for the committee organization, Chair. Happy to answer any questions that the committee members might have about anything on that.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the committee? Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just clarification on the chair's part and Mr. Thurley's part. What's the preference if we have a question on a particular budget? Do you prefer that we go to the folks assigned to that budget, not to waste your time, or what's the preference? Go directly, if we can, to the budget folks or you?
Thank you for the question, Senator Titus. Wayne Thorley for the record. So go through me. It's nice to be aware of what questions are being asked, so that I just have a lot more face time with you all, so it's good. And so if you have a question, just run it through me, and then I can farm it out, or through Kathy or through Julie. Someone here and then that's easier.
So I never hesitate. Thank you, sir. But I just want to make sure new members know
Yes, thank you.
what you guys prefer. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, please, when you're ready.
Okay, so that's it. So the next thing we're going to move to is a quick presentation on the Nevada state budget. And when I say Nevada state budget, I mean like in general, not the governor's recommended budget. So this is something new. We're trying for the first time this session with the chair's indulgence. So you all are going to be asked to make important decisions this session, and you have a lot to consider. And it's not just important budget decisions. That's the world that we live in every day. But you all have important policy decisions to make this session too. And we are here to make sure that you have the information that you all need to make informed decisions. And there are finite resources. We live in a world where there's limited resources, which means you all have to make tough decisions. And it's our job as staff to make sure, again, as I mentioned, that you have the information you need to make those tough decisions. And so as kind of a setting of the table and hopefully providing a base of knowledge from which you all can draw on to make those tough decisions, I wanted to give this kind of overview presentation. Some of this presentation is very similar to if you went to the Money Committee training a couple weeks ago in Las Vegas. Some of it's very similar, but I did add some new things in there. So we'll just get started. So this is the state's, what can be thought of as a state's operating budget for the last legislatively approved operating budget for the last 3 bienniums, and then the governor's recommended state operating budget for the upcoming biennium. So that's the 4 columns there. This does not include one-shot appropriations, supplemental appropriations, things like that. So again, this can be thought of as the operating budget, the ongoing budget. It has grown by about $23.775 billion from the ledge-approved 2029-2021 biennium that the governor recommends for the upcoming biennium. So you see that at $25.7 billion amount up to almost so $49.5 billion. So that's like a 92.3% increase in the operating budget over that time span. But there are 2 significant causes of that increase. One, if you look at the balance forward amount over time, that really grew starting in the 2021-23 biennium. That is related to the ARPA funds, so the Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Funds. Nevada got $2.7 billion at the time from that, and that's just for that portion. There was a lot of other ARPA grants that the state got that are accounted for under the federal funds, so that's some of the increase there. But the ARPA funds, so the general government operating dollars that we got under the Coronavirus State Fiscal Recovery Fund, the $2.7 billion, that was captured, so it all came in as cash. It wasn't a normal government, like a federal grant drawdown, and then would get balanced forward. So that's why you see that big increase in balance forward, because the money came in and then started getting balanced forward. So what we didn't use in a year, it got balanced forward and keeps getting balanced forward until the December 31, 2026, which is when the deadline to spend it all is. Another thing that happened that biennium, the 2021-23 biennium, was the introduction of the Pupil-Centered Funding Plan. And the Pupil-Centered Funding Plan takes all revenue that's collected for K-12 education and puts it in what's known as the State Education Fund. That was not always the practice. In the past, under the old Nevada plan with the distributive school account, some money was collected at the local level, considered local funding, and then given straight to the school districts. So it never hit the state accounting system, and so it was never counted as part of our operating budget. And so you'll see a large increase in other fund between the 2019-2021 biennium and the 2021-23 biennium, and that is largely a result of K-12 education revenue that was already being collected, just now being counted for in the state operating budget. So there was no new taxes or tax increases during that time. It was just where it was accounted for. So now we'll go to this. This shows better those two issues. So you can see in the balance forward table, the chart, which is the blue lines, or the second grouping from the left, and then if you look at the blue line, that's the 2019-2021 biennium, and then that big jump up to that kind of that orange line. That balance forward is a result of the ARPA, and then you can see the same thing on the far right, the other funds. That big increase from the blue line to the orange line is related to the new state education fund. This is the same information, but now as a percentage of the overall operating budget for those 4 bienniums that I've been showing you. So you can see the largest funding source has been and continues to be, when I say largest funding source for the state operating budget, is federal funds. That is the gray area. It's been relatively stable over the last 3 bienniums at around 31.5% of the operating budget has been federal funds. The other fund, which is the light blue area, has also grown as a percentage, and again, that's largely due to the change in how we record funding for the state education fund. The general fund has, so that is in the blue area there. So that is shrunk, the darker blue area. That's shrunk as a percentage of the operating budget. As the ARPA funds have spent, though, it's been growing back. So really, when the ARPA dollars came in, it caused, the pie got much bigger. So the general fund was funding a smaller portion of the operating budget, and as the ARPA dollars have been getting spent down, the percentage of the operating budget that is supported by the general fund has been growing back, which is why in that first biennium on the top left, you'll see that the dark blue piece of the pie is fairly big, and then it cuts down to less than a quarter of the pie, and then it's been growing as the ARPA dollars have been spent, which means the balance forward money, the orange area, has been getting smaller. So next is, so what does the state spend its money on? This table, same bottom line as the first table that we mentioned. So it's the operating budget, the same bottom line dollar amounts and kind of that kind of rose or orange line at the very bottom of the table. You'll recognize those numbers from the previous table. But this breaks operating spending out by functional area. So education, so both K-12 education and higher education, and then health and human services, which Medicaid is a part. Those are the biggest areas of spending in the state operating budget. There is a giant increase in the elected officials line from 2019 to 2021 biennium, and then the 2021-23 biennium. You'll see that increase. That's where we accounted for the ARPA funds. So it's the governor's finance office where the money came into, and then the COVID-19 program's budget account is a governor's office budget account, and that's why it's recorded there on elected officials. So that's why there's that big jump. And then you'll see that as the ARPA spending has been going on, that the elected officials line has been going down over the last couple of years. That's again going back down to what has historically been a normal level for the elected officials. So again, this is that same information, just in a bar chart, and you can see here in kind of just the magnitude of the spending on education and health and human services. So the two bar lines that are way up, the two areas that are way higher than all the other ones, that's K-12 education and higher education, and then that's health and human services, of which Medicaid spending makes up a large portion of that. And then you can also see here the issue that I previously mentioned. If you look in the grouping, if you look at the group of bar lines on the far left above the elected officials label, you'll see that big jump from the blue bar to the orange bar, that's when we brought in the ARPA funds, so that's why there was that huge jump in elected officials spending. But again, that was just because that's where the ARPA dollars were accounted for, and then they were sent out to the agencies.
Mr. Thorley,
Yes.
can I have a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Why was that named elected officials?
So that's a great point. So these 8, that's actually a really good point, Chair. Wayne Thorley for the record. So these 8 functional areas align with the functional areas in the executive budget. So the elected officials functional area includes the budgets for the constitutional officers. That's why it's called elected officials. But it also includes the budgets for the judicial branch and the legislative branch. And so all those are in the elected officials functional area. I'm not sure where it got that title from, but that's what that represents. And so anything that's in the elected officials functional areas is judicial branch, executive branch, legislative branch, or the constitutional officers and some of their budget accounts. So for example, the governor's office of finance, or some of the other governor's office budgets are under there, under the elected officials.
Okay, we might want to work on that name. Thank you. Any questions before Mr. Thorley goes on? Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So looking at the ongoing expenditures over a period of time, in 2019, 2021, our budget was $25 billion. And then, yes, we had the bump with COVID money and ARPA funds in the 2021 and through 2025. But looking at the 25 to 27, we have almost doubled the budget for this state. Is there any relationship to what has our population done? We have not doubled our population in those 4 years, have we? Or where are we with population? Because it just seems to me shocking that we would double our spending in 5 years.
So Senator Titus, Wayne Thorley for the record, that is a good question. And I do have some slides in just a bit on adjusting some numbers for population growth and inflation, so you can kind of see how those how that impacts that. Because yes, you are correct. These are just the raw dollars without accounting for population increase or inflation. So this is the same 4 bienniums, again, by a functional area in a pie chart, so you can see what percentage of the state budget is directed to which of the 8 functional areas. The light blue, the big kind of blue area on all the pie charts, that's the Health and Human Services. Again, that's largely Medicaid, but other spending for Health and Human Services. So that's TANF, that's SNAP, that's Aging Disability Services, Division of Child and Family Services, all that's in there. And then the gray area, that's education, K-12 education and higher education. So the percentage going to these 2 areas has actually grown over time. And so from the 2019-2021 biennium to the 2025-27 biennium, the percentage going to those 2 functional areas has increased. So in the 2021-2019 biennium, education and Health and Human Services made up 72.1% of the budget. And in the governor's recommended budget for the upcoming biennium, those 2 combined are just under 80% now, around 79%. And so, again, the rest of the 6 functional areas in the governor's proposed budget make up right around 20% of the budget. So the vast majority of the state's spending goes to education and Health and Human Services. So these next few slides talk about ongoing versus new expenditures. So the budget that is presented to you all is presented in what we call a base, maintenance, and enhancement format. The base budget is the legislatively approved budget for year 2 of the biennium. So right now, we're in year 2 of the 2023-2025 biennium. In developing the budget for the proposed budget for the upcoming biennium, the governor used the legislatively approved budget for the current fiscal year, and that became the base budget for each of the 2 fiscal years in the upcoming biennium. Now, the base budget is adjusted. There's an adjusted base budget process to remove one-time expenditure, so all the one-shot appropriation bills that were considered last session, there was a lot of them. Any one-time funding is removed from the adjusted base budget. Any expiring contracts, other type of adjustments are made to the base budget. Any overtime that's not, agencies aren't authorized to continue in their budget. Leave payout, terminal leave payout for someone that retired, all that stuff. And so we get back to kind of an adjusted base budget. And that's kind of the ongoing spending. Then there's a maintenance. The maintenance decision units account for things that affect the budget but are kind of outside of you all's control. So there's an inflationary component in the maintenance decision units, but also caseload growth, court decisions that impact spending, things like that are what's considered maintenance. So that's added then on top of the base budget. And then there's proposed enhancements. These are the proposed new programs or expansions of existing programs, or it can even be reductions to existing programs. All those would be in the enhancements. So again, same bottom line dollar amounts here. Now we're just looking at them as base maintenance and enhancement instead of by functional area. And you can see that the base budget makes up the vast majority of the operating budget, over 90% in any given fiscal year. And again, the base budget is just the legislatively approved budget, operating budget, continued forward. The base budget, we spend a lot of time in the fall before each legislative session going over the base budget with state agencies and the governor's finance office, making sure that they're not including anything in the base budget that shouldn't be included in there, and that anything that was approved by you all last session for like one-time purposes gets pulled out. So we go through a pretty extensive adjusted base budget review process so that the base budget that is then included in the governor's recommended budget is pretty clean. We don't spend a lot of time during the next 120 days, 119 days, looking at the base budget in this committee, although we're happy to talk to you about it at any time. Where we focus on is the gray area, the gray bar charts, the recommended enhancements. So that's where this committee is primarily going to spend its time. Any maintenance or enhancement decision units approved then generally get added to the base budget for the next biennium, again, unless they're like one-time type things. And so any enhancements that you all approve this session for ongoing operating expenses will then get rolled into the base budget 2 years from now. And that's kind of how this works. So here's that again as a percentage. As I mentioned previously, the base budget historically has covered, in the low 90%, so 91, 92% of the state operating. If you look at the 2021-2023 biennium, so the pie chart in the top right quadrant, you'll see that the gray area, which is the enhancements area, is quite a bit larger as a percentage of the pie than it is in any of the other 3 bienniums. And again, that's related to the ARPA funds, so that came in as an enhancement. And also some of the new funding for K-12 education, the state education fund that came into the state accounting system for the first time. So all came in as enhancements, and now it got grabbed into the base budget. So that's why the base budget looks a lot smaller there. It's just those things. And then and we're back up to in the low 90% of the base budget for the next 2 bienniums. All right, let's talk about revenue now. This is not a revenue committee. I know some of you sit on revenue, so we're not going to dig into revenue too much here, but it is an important part of the state budget process. This pie chart comes from the Economic Forum's report, so the December 2024 meeting of the Economic Forum, and it represents the forecast of the Economic Forum broken out by general fund revenue source. You'll see what we refer to as the Big Five. So sales taxes is by far the biggest portion of the unrestricted general fund revenue at just a little over 30%. And when I say sales tax, this is just the state 2% portion of the sales tax. As you all know, when you go buy things, the sales tax is much larger than that. And there's other components, the local school support tax, and then there's the local funding components that make up the sales tax. But this 31% here, that is just the 2%, the state portion. And then going down from largest to smallest from the sales tax, the other remaining Big Five, you got gaming taxes. That's mostly the gaming percentage fees. Then you got the modified business tax. You'll hear that referred to as MBT, insurance premium tax, and then the commerce tax. And then there are other revenue sources that make up the unrestricted general fund, like the live entertainment tax, that are smaller, real property transfer tax. So here's that same chart now. I just picked 4 bienniums at random going back to the 2003-2005 biennium. That's the top left. So going back over 20 years at the top left. And then the bottom right one is the one I just showed you. So that's the most recent Economic Forum's forecast. So what you can see here, and if you look at the top left, so this was before the modified business tax. There was no commerce tax either at this time. So you can see that the sales tax is still there. That's been pretty stable, actually, around 30% over time of the unrestricted general fund revenue sources. If you look at the sales tax piece of the pie in all 4 of those charts, it's been relatively stable, right around 30%. MBT, that was introduced in about, I think it was FY 2004, when MBT, modified business tax, first came online. So then that actually has been growing as a percentage of unrestricted general fund revenue over time. Then gaming, gaming taxes as a percentage of the unrestricted general fund revenue has actually been shrinking over time. So if you look at the chart on the top left, so again, this is going back to the 2005, over 20 years ago, biennium, about 32.9%. And then the Economic Forum's forecast for the upcoming biennium has the gaming taxes about 15.9%. And again, this is a percentage of the pie, so this doesn't mean that gaming taxes have gone down. As a raw number, they've continued to grow, but as a percentage of overall general fund revenue collection, it is a smaller piece of the pie than it used to be in the past, and that makes sense because new revenue sources have come online since, so the modified business tax and the commerce tax are the 2 big ones that have come online in the past 20 years. This is general fund revenue going back to fiscal year 2000. So going back about 25 years. And this is total unrestricted general fund revenue collected. They're all actuals except for when we get to the last 3 columns on the right, the bars on the right. Those are projections for FY 25, 26, and 27 based on the Economic Forum's report. So since FY 2000 all the way to fiscal year 2024, the most recently completed fiscal year, general fund revenues, unrestricted general fund, have grown by $4.4 billion. That is a 265% increase over the last 25 years. So that's, you can just see that's the growth from that bar on the far left all the way up to the 4th from the right bar That's that about $4.4 billion growth. This zooms in a little bit more. So this just takes FY 2018 through projected FY 20. So it's just kind of the far right side of that previous table. This helps see things a little closer on a zoomed in look. So since fiscal year 2018 to FY 24, general fund revenues have increased by $2 billion. So that's just under a 50% increase since 2018.
Mr. Thorley, I think Senator Neal had a question. If we could pause just for a minute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to know what was the non-tax revenue, like you didn't break that bucket.
Wayne Thorley for the record, Fiscal Analysis Division. So that's just various fees that are collected that go into the unrestricted general fund. It's all, if you look at the Economic Forums report, there's a fees section, and it's just that thing, those things. And I think some business licensing fees from the Secretary of State's office and others. I don't know if Michael's back here. But yes, so it's those type of things. It's revenue sources that are collected from fees that go into the unrestricted general fund.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we're zooming back out again. This goes out further than we've looked before. It's kind of hard to read, I know, because it's pretty small. This takes us all the way back to fiscal year 1990. And shows unrestricted general fund revenue collection over time. And as Senator Titus alluded to earlier, right, it's not revenue collection and then ultimately state spending is affected by population growth and also inflation. So if you look at just the raw numbers and don't account for population growth and inflation, you're not really getting an accurate picture of what's going on. So what this graph attempts to do is do that. So the very top line, that's the just raw numbers, unrestricted general fund revenue collection since 1990. But then you start seeing adjustments for inflation and what we call, so per capita adjustments, so adjusting for population. Those are those various lines. But the one I want to focus on is the very bottom line there. That is unrestricted general fund revenue collections that have been adjusted for population and then adjusted for inflation. So as inflation goes up, the purchasing power of the dollar goes down, so you can buy less government. Government services can produce less at any given dollar amount. And so what this shows is that since going all the way back to FY 1990, unrestricted general fund revenue collections adjusted for population and inflation have essentially been flat. This table shows you in the, I think that's a blue line, so the more straight line doesn't have the peaks and valleys. That takes the fiscal year 1990 actual unrestricted general fund revenue collections and then imputes what that would be accounting for population growth and inflation, and then so that's just imputed, taking that total, and then if we just carry that out over time. Is that green? The green line is the one that's with more peaks and valleys. That's actual general fund revenue collection. And so you see it fairly closely tracks the imputed, what we would predict it to be, adjusting it for population growth and inflation. There are some, you'll see some jumps in there. So the trend line, the green line started actually getting below the imputed line, what we would have predicted it to be in the early 2000s. And then there's a kind of it turns up there. That's the modified business tax coming online. And so so that's a new revenue source that's created. So then it jumps up above the trend line. And then we have the Great Recession and it kind of comes back down. And then it's trending again below the imputed line into like fiscal year 16, 17. Then the commerce tax comes online, and then it jumps up again above the imputed amount. And then we have the COVID recession. That's that little downturn close to the end. And then the post-COVID boom, and that's that big jump up in the numbers. So right now, we are at an amount greater than what the imputed amount would go. The imputed amount from 1990 would project that will be at. Okay, I know this is getting long, so last couple of things I want to talk about is just the rainy day account and the education stabilization account. So these are two kind of savings accounts that the state has that can be accessed in certain situations for emergency type situations where revenue collection is not meeting expectations, or in the case of K-12 education, if enrollments goes beyond what you all projected, or if revenue in the state education fund is not what it was projected, these things can be accessed. This is the rainy day account balance, which is known as the account to stabilize the operation of the state government, commonly referred to as the rainy day account. There is a 26% cap. That's 26% of operating appropriations in the rainy day account. You can see historically the cap line is kind of that orange line at the top, and then the actual amounts at the end of the fiscal year in the rainy day account are those blue bars. You can see for most of the recent past, we've been well under the cap. Starting in FY23, though, we hit the 26% cap, and then we're hit the cap again fiscal year 24, and projecting to hit the cap again in fiscal year 25. You'll see, just one other thing I'll point out, so you'll see that went down to 0 in fiscal year 2020. So that was during right at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, it was that right up to about $400 million at that point when the money was drawn out of the rainy day account, transferred to the unrestricted general fund to cover revenue losses. This is this line shows for any given fiscal year what percentage of general fund operating appropriations the rainy day account could support. So just for an example, in the first one, fiscal year 2015, the amount of money that was in the rainy day account at that time couldn't even support 1% of general fund operating. So you can think of that as it could have supported less than 1% of the state's operations for a year. Now going out to the most recent years, it's right at the 26% cap. So they could support approximately 26% of state operating appropriations in any given fiscal year. This is the education stabilization account. It has a much shorter history because it only came into play with the creation of the Pupil Center Funding Plan and the State Education Fund. The education, again, stabilization account operates like the rainy day account. It's just specifically for K-12 education. And the orange line, again, is the cap. And so we're actually not at the cap in the education stabilization account. There is room under the cap there.
Senator Titus.
Actually, Senator Taylor.
Sorry, I didn't look over. I just heard my name. So thank you very much. Senator Taylor, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. What's the cap for the education account?
Education stabilization account cap is 20% of all authorizations and appropriations to the state education fund.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah. So it's 20%. The rainy day account cap is 26%.
26. Mm-hmm.
And apologies, I just didn't look over. I was
No problem.
focusing on this education stabilization account, as you were too. And any other questions at this point? Okay, go ahead, please, Mr. Thornton.
Okay, last slide, I promise. This takes the account balance in both savings account. So the blue area is the rainy day account and the orange area is the education stabilization account, adds them together for fiscal years 24 and then projected for fiscal year 25. So it's a little over $2 billion in 24 and then growing to about $2.1 billion in FY25. So if you take both savings accounts and combine them, and then as a rough estimate, assume that general fund operating appropriations are a little over $6 billion, let's say 6.2 or so in the governor's recommended budget per year. you can see that between these two savings accounts, they could support about a third, 33% of state general fund operating appropriations. So they could support state government on their own for about a third of a year. And that is it. So happy to answer any questions, and I hope this has been helpful for you all. Again, sometimes when you're asked to make decisions, it's good to know, kind of just have a good base of knowledge where that's coming from.
Well, I, for one, appreciate your expertise and knowledge, so thank you very much. Any questions? Senator Titus, now it's your turn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excellent. Thank you, sir. You always give such a good overview that we all can comprehend. I know that the interest earned on the rainy day account for the general fund goes back into the general fund. Does the interest earned on the education savings account go to the education savings account or education, or does it go back to the general fund?
Wayne Thorley, for the record, excellent questions, Senator Titus, because you did identify a distinction there. The interest earned in the education stabilization account stays in the education stabilization account. So a pretty unique thing about the state education fund is once money goes into the state, it stays there. That's the current law. So yeah, any interest earned does not go to support the general fund.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions? Senator Stone.
Thank you for the presentation. For a newbie on finance, it's really fascinating to see how the budget comes together. But for newbies like me, can you just go into a little bit more detail on the gaming tax, about what the percentage is? I mean, I think I remember 7 or 8%. Is it adjusted every year, or how does that work?
So that's a really good question. I'll give you like super high level, and then I'll have Michael Nakamoto, head of our tax team, follow up with you with some more detailed information so that I don't botch this. But as the gaming percentage fee, that's the tax on the gross revenue. That's the largest portion of the gaming taxes on economic forums projections that we showed. The highest rate, I think, is about 6.25%, and the lowest rate, I think, is about 3.5%. And so it varies between there. But I'll have Michael follow up with some additional information.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions from the committee? Okay, see, I'm sure there are some, and I'm sure they'll be forthcoming, but with that said, so thank you very much, Mr. Thorley, and please let me know what's next. You are done. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. All right, thank you very much, and thank you for your information, and as I said, expertise, and I'm sure the committee members will reach out if they have additional questions. So, committee members, that completes our agenda for today. This will probably be the shortest meeting we have. So tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. we'll be meeting again, and this will be a joint meeting with Assembly Ways and Means in room 4100. So that's the other thing. When we are joint, we are always in 4100, and we are Senate Finance, we are always in this room. So please make yourself available right at 8 a.m. so we can get started, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.